Hey, comrades. Hope everyone's doing great. We're here to talk about Dirty Backyard, which is Moran's banner event story thingy. It also introduces 6-0, I think, for the first time in this series. We already covered 6-0 a little bit with Liverin in the previous story because I think the timeline's a little off on mine. If you go to the game now, they have a whole like chronology, and there's a few of the event stories like Moran's, Sora's, and like the Eve, the not Eva, the Stellar Blade event, which are canon, right? A lot of the other ones are just kind of like fun side stories that may or may not actually take place, but don't really affect the main story or like things that are going on there. But Dirty Backyard does, so this is kind of like an important story moment, and it's much more serious than a lot of these events, which tend to be a bit more like tee fun times had by all, or just like cute little side stories or sad or whatever. Anyway, so we start off with Moran. She has a headache. She tries contacting Sakura and Rosanna, but they're both busy. But Moran needs help. She's being accused of murder, and not like accused of murder like she's under a police investigation, but more like she is. There's like a news report of her like killing people, and so after her squad mates blow her off again, she turns to Jin. Jin is like the brains of the operation. We've run into Jin several times in the story, but he's a good dude. He works really hard with Moran, and they're friends. And then Jin's like buddies with Rosanna and Sakura as well. Anyway, word is spreading throughout the arc that she's a murderer and that she's trying to figure out what to do. And she's like, aha, the cadet, who's us. Later on in her room, she is begging for help. She even drops to her knees. So we pick her up and we're like, yeah, we're going to help you. Chill. It's like, what's going on? And apparently there was like a murder in Fog Hollow, which is part of the Outer Rim that the Peony Association's like over. And Rosanna and Sakura are being sketch with her as usual, but they really have nothing to do with, they're barely in this event at all. So, well, who else can we seek for help? Because us going by ourselves to the other rooms is probably not the best of ideas. And we're like, oh, how about the scavengers? So we head over to not Cafe, Cafe Sweetie. The maid cafe? Yeah. I get confused between the two cafes. But Cafe Sweetie is where the scavengers are, which is Milk, Freema, and Sugar. And Sugar's there by herself. And so we kind of tell her about the situation, and she agrees to help. But she's like, I'll just go by myself. And then we talk about how she's strapped for cash, and that's the reason why she doesn't want to get the others involved. And we're like, okay. We then meet up right outside the Outer Rim, and we see that Sugar has a new costume. We're like, wow, that's super hot. like, goodness gracious. And Moran's like, oh, looks good to see you back wearing that. And we're like, what? And then Sugar, we find out, used to live in the Outer Rim, and that she wore this outfit when she was here. And also, apparently, her and Moran have some sort of association in the past, or like work together, or like, it's not just like a random person or anything. We question this, but then Sugar's like, moving on. It's we approach the partition and we see a bunch of bodies of people like kind of laid out on the ground, and they're all like drugged out, and then some people are like begging for mist, and they're talking about how Moran can save them. And we question this and head inside, and then some people see Moran, and she gets like jumped, and then we get jumped, and Sugar drives them off by firing her shotgun in the air, and then grabs us on the bike and drives off. Once we're in the clear, Sugar calls us over. She's like, hey, what does she call us? No, cadet is what Moran calls a partner. She calls us partner. She's like, hey, partner, get over here. And we like, yeah, Sugar, what's up? And she grabs us and pulls a shotgun on Moran. And it's like, what is going on? You're being super suspicious. And so she throws out all these allegations against Moran about how she's stealing drugs and lying and about all this stuff. And then Moran turns it over and is like, no, I don't know anything about the mist. And I would never be involved in the drug trade. What about you? Like, what's with this and that? And you seem to know a whole lot about what's going on. Like, how do you know about everything that's going on? And then as they're arguing, Jin rolls up and he sets the record straight. He's like, Martin has no idea what's going on. She's completely innocent. And he's like, oh, hey, I haven't seen you in that uniform in a while. And we're like, what? Don't worry, we'll learn about it later. And he also mentions like 10 years ago at some point, and then there's some back and forth. And finally, we are the commander are like, what the heck is Miss? Like, what the F? And then so Jin pulls out this candy, and he's like, this. And then he starts to explain that it's a heavy narcotic that causes like a fog in the brain and causes like hallucinations, and it's extremely addicted. And Moran's like astounded. She's like, where is this coming from? And it's like coming from Fog Hollow. And she's like, how? Like, that's under our association. I would never approve that. And like, I was just there, like talking to these people like a little bit ago. We then talk about her alibis a little bit. And finally, Sugar is pacified about the whole situation. I mean, for now. Jin then mentions that he's been investigating this for a while now, but he has no idea who's actually running the operations, but he does know where the mist is coming from. And it's being produced over in Fog Hollow, right? So, the mystery continues. And so then Jin calls out Sugar because she knows way more than she should know. And that, the fact that she's like skeptical of Moran from like the get go, like, wait, hold on. Why are you here? Like, why did you decide to come here? Like, what's going on? Why do you know about all this stuff? Like you shouldn't know about all this stuff. And then Moran talks about how and then her and Sugar go back and forth again. Moran talks about she trusts the people there because part of her thing is loyalty and they'd never be involved in the drug trade. And then Sugar's like, well, how do you know? What would you do if you found out? And she's like, if I found out they were involved in the drug trade and were harming all these people, I'd burn the whole place down. And so, yeah, here. Sorry, my son just spilled milk. Okay, there we go. Yeah, you're fine. Uh huh. Anyway, we're like, okay, sounds good. So we're gonna go over to Fog Hollow and kind of figure out what's going on. And Moran's like, let's go, Jan. And he's like, actually, since I'm like the brains of the operation, I'm not really a fighter. I'm gonna go deal with this from the shadow. So I'll watch out for you guys, and I'm gonna send some associates from the Peony Association to help you guys when you get over there. So just get there and get set up, and then they'll be there to help out. And we're like, cool, sounds good. So as we travel, we're still kind of Sugar's like keeping us away from Moran because she's still like a little sus about the whole situation. We like question her, and she mentions that the reason she knows about all this stuff is because she did a mission recently over to Fog Hollow, and there she found the villagers making this, so she knew why. And she mentions that they had to because they had orders from higher up, and the higher ups told the villagers that if they didn't make mist and didn't make more mist and more mist, that they would kill them. And then they identified that the Peony Association and hence Moran was the higher ups who were telling them to do this stuff. And then why didn't Sugar tell us originally or tell Moran about this? And she's like, because Moran trusts the people of Fog Hollow too much and that she would never believe Sugar and never believe that they would be making drugs and stuff. So that Moran needs to see it for herself. As we get closer, Moran gets approached by a guy who's looking for mist. And Sugar says, and then, she's like, well, I got some mist. If you want some, we can make a deal. And we were about to interfere. And Sugar's like, no, let's just watch and see what happens. So, yeah. And so Moran's like, yeah, I'll give you some mist. Let's go down. Let's make a trade. Or you give me some information, I'll give you the mist. And the guy's like, okay. So we head down this dark alleyway, and then Moran like punches a wall near him and is like, what is going on? You are definitely not like a mist addict. You don't look like a mist addict. Like, tell me who's in charge of you. And the guy's like, no, I can't. I'll die. Something. And then they go back and forth, and then his phone starts to ring, and then Sugar grabs it and gives it to us, and we open up, and it's a bunch of messages from dun 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 60. That's right, that dirty SOB. And so we find out here officially, because I was like confused because I don't think it mentions it in the main story if 60 is a man or a woman. I mean, you kind of assume a lot of these people are just women because Nikke got us a victory, but she is officially like Sugar calls her like multiple times at this point. And then the 60 is like, what are you doing? You're failing. All you're supposed to do is distract them for a minute so I can like do my thing. And like, if you can't do that, like you're a failure and like, you can just go ahead and die. I know, yeah, you got a son. I'll just replace you with your son. And then the guy takes his phone back and he starts laughing. He's like, oh, I'm screwed. And then we hear like a tick, tick, tick. And then Sugar and Moran slam us to the ground as the man explodes. Luckily, they were quick enough that we survived without even like a scratch. So we chat about the guy and chat about him being like a suicide bomber, and we were like, he didn't really seem like he knew that was going to happen, and if they wanted to suicide bomb us, they would have done it like right away instead of like waiting. So that's likely not the intent of what was going on there. And then we get a text from 60, and in the text 60's taunting us, and then Sugar asks about it and then explains that 60 is a woman who operates on the darknet and that she's been becoming more and more invested in like the underworld and being very secretive and like no one knows who they really are because they never communicate like in person or whatever. We then talk about what she wants in Fog Hollow, like 60, and it's like, okay, we got to go figure out like this mist thing and everything else that's going on. And when we get there, we hear people calling out for help and then gunfire. The people who shot those people come running out, and they're villagers here in Fog Hollow that work, and they make mist, and these people are trying to take their mist, but if they take their mist, the people in the Fog Hollow are going to get killed because they got a quota to hit, and if they don't, 60 is going to like blow the whole place up because she's got bombs everywhere, and it's like this whole crazy thing. And so we find out that these people are just like making a little bit of mist on the side to make some extra money and keeping it a secret from Moran, and then 60 found out and blackmailed them into making more and more and more, and then 60 even like destroyed a whole factory worth of people at some point to make a point that like she could do whatever she wants. And so they need to keep producing mist for 60 or they're all going to die. And Moran gets super mad, talking about how they should have asked her for help originally and how she's got to like destroy the whole place now and all this stuff. And then Sugar, she's like threatening them and like screaming at them and stuff. And then Sugar grabs her hand and tells them to give them back the mist because otherwise they're going to die. And they're in a position where they just got to do what they got to do. And then so Moran and her argue a bit, and then they fight. They literally fight. They punch each other a whole bunch. And then Sugar, like, we're told to like pick a side. And I go with Moran. I don't know if it really matters what side you pick, to be completely honest. because we chat with both of them anyway. And so then Sugar hops on her bike and heads into the factory area with all the people that like ran off. And so we talked to Moran, and she's like, "Hey, I'm going to burn this whole place down." And we talk about that with her, and she's like super upset, but she's got to do it because like her association can't be like disrespected, and like this is how you control the underworld and stuff like that. And so she's going to wait here, and she asks us to go talk to Sugar and see if we can like talk some sense into her or whatnot. While she waits for the rest of her association to come down. So we head over and talk to Sugar, and when we get inside, she tells us more about her past. How she used to be a very different person. She was in a different squad. She was very bad. She did bad things. Eventually, she was working for 6-0, and that she did things that made her like have a lot of regrets in life. And part of the reason she wants to stop Moran is because she doesn't want Moran to have the same regrets that she has. And that when she took the job originally to come over here, and that 6-0 actually kind of blackmailed her somewhat to get her to like come back with us. So this was all like plots upon plots or whatever, schemes upon schemes from 6-0. And the whole reason she's wearing this uniform is this the uniform she used to wear when she was doing all the sketchy underground stuff. And it makes like a point. She mentions it's kind of like her scarlet letter. Like everyone sees it and they know exactly Sugar's coming here to like not mess around and to do sketchy stuff. And so it reminds other people of who she is and what she used to do. And then right as she's like, we got to stop Moran, Moran arrives with the Peony Association. And then we switch over to Moran, and she's got this pretty epic like rant. She's going to like burn the whole place down and clean up the trash, and like you can't disrespect the Peony Association, and you know, looking hot as hell as well. And so that's great. And then she enters, and her and Sugar go back and forth some more. And Moran talks about how she can't show forgiveness and mercy because she did that before, and then it made everything so much worse. And that the fact that if she lets these people alone, 6-0 would never leave them alone. And it's just, you got to pull the rotting branch out by the root, or rotting tree out by the root. And then we cut to the next day, and we're watching a newscast about the incident in Fog Hollow, how the Peony Association burned the whole thing down, and we find out that Moran beat the shit out of Sugar, and then we drag Sugar to the hospital, and so we don't really know what happened, so we're just getting like the news report. And then Moran hasn't responded to us in like over a day. So we head over to her place, and she's gone. We find out that she's off talking to Mustang about everything that went down. And Rosanna and Sakura are here just kind of giving support. We discuss 6-0 with them. We discussed the mist addicts and all that stuff and what to do next, because the thing is like normally they would just kill the addicts because they're causing so many problems, and like there's no more mist production supposedly. But you know, there's so many of them that there's got to be a way to do it, and that the other underworld queens stop. Sorry, my son's like grabbing his poopy butt. And that they have to go and stop 6-0, right? They have to cut this thing out because there's disrespect to the underworld queens. It's not just the Peony Association; it's all of them who kind of run the underworld here. And so they go off to do that. We then visit Sugar in the hospital, and she's recovered. And she says she's going to stop taking jobs and focus on finding 6-0 and helping to clear Moran's name, because Moran didn't do anything wrong. A bit later on, we still don't hear from Moran, but we start going to the Peony Association where she's not around, but there's a bunch of graffiti calling her like a monster and all this stuff. And we just clean it up for a couple days. And then one day we show up and Moran's cleaning it, and it's like a lot of negative things about her and like all this stuff that none of it's like true. And so we check up on her, and she mentions Outer Ring and justification for what she did. And then she starts to have a little bit of a breakdown while she's cleaning all this stuff up. And then we hold her and help her kind of overcome this so that she can keep fighting 6-0. And we promise that we'll keep fighting 6-0 with her. Elsewhere, kind of like as a wrap up, so that's like kind of the end. But then like as the elsewhere, over at the Outer Rim, we see two jackoffs. And they're talking about working for 6-0 and how they're still trading mist, and that the mist still flows even though the factory was destroyed, and that, you know, there's other ways to get shady stuff going on. And so the legacy of 6-0 will continue in the main story specifically. But yeah, moving on to Moran's Bond story. All right, on to Moran's Bond story. So Moran's Bond story starts with Jin approaching her and being like, "Hey, we're broke. We can't pay any of our subordinates." And Moran's like, "No, we got plenty of money." And he's like, "Nope, we got no money." And part of the reason is because Moran is such a charitable individual. Like, she'll do missions for people, like escort missions or whatever other kind of like BS role-playing game like fetch quests. It doesn't charge like fees, and then she'll lend money to people, but then not charge interest and stuff. So it's like they're just normally Jen talks about how the like Moran has like her own thing that she does where she gets paid, and then the members of the Peony Association, part of the reason they're so small is because they end up getting items or like they end up getting things and like doing trades on their own. But then they're in like a real financial crisis right now, and Jin's not even able to get paid. And so Moran's like, okay, I'll take care of it. Don't worry. Just don't let anyone else know. And Jin's like, everyone knows. Like, there's not, you can't hide this crap from people. Like, they're not getting paid, dude. It's it's the first Moran goes to Sakura, which is always a bad idea because she of course says no. I'm not gonna help you. Part of it is that the Seimaki or the Yakuza are they're very strict with everything, but also there's no way she'd give Moran money because she knows she wouldn't get anything out of it. Then she's like, aha, I can go to Rosanna still. So she goes to Rosanna, and Rosanna's like, absolutely not, get out of here, and she kicks her out too. And so with that, Moran's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I don't know who to talk to. But then she's like, aha, I know who to talk to. The cadet, which of course is us. So we talk to Moran and say, hey, how much do you owe? And she's like, 500,000 credits. And we're like, oh, that's nothing. We got that. I mean, we don't say that. We're we're like, well, we don't have a lot of money, but we can give you this money and lend it to you. You can pay us back. She's like, no, I don't want to steal money from you. I just want your escort to the Ark so that I can look for like a part-time job. So we're like, okay, sure. So we go to the toy shop at the Korean. God, I can never say these guys. I think always call them the Cannonaders, and they're like the Karanadas or something. Anyway, Belorta and Nikke. So she's like, cool. And they're like, oh, yeah, you can work. We just work for commission, so you can definitely work in the toy store with us. And then we sit around for like 3 hours or so. And nobody shows up. And then Mika and Belorta are like, oh, yeah, sometimes we don't have customers for like weeks. Okay, next. So then we head over to the Maid Cafe. Yeah, we head over to the Maid Cafe, and Coco and Soda are like, oh, we'd love to have Moran help us because Ade's away or Ade or whatever is away for a while. And so she's like, cool. So she delivers like the Omni Rice, and the person's like, what about the magic spell? And she's like, what magic spell? How about you cast it yourself? And the guy starts flipping out, and so Coco and Soda have to come and save the day. And then a member of the Peony Association comes in and is like, boss? And Moran's like, we got to get out of here right now. It's so failure number 2. And then we hit Cafe Sweetie. We go talk to Talentum, which is Dollar Yen and Ruby. We head over to the repair center with Mary, and then the workshop for Mighty Tools, and it's like no. So at the end of the day, it's been like a long, hard day full of rejections and failures for Moran, and she's feeling pretty rough. And as she's like being sad-apotamus about the whole situation, we end up seeing a flyer on the ground, and we're like, hey, how about this? So the flyer says something about debt collecting or whatever. So we explained to Moran what debt collectors are, and we decided to set up our own little shop / we just grab like a piece of cardboard and write debt. We will retrieve unpaid debts immediately, and then go out and stand and like make a big show of it so people will approach us. Anyway, so we do that for a little bit, and then some woman shows up, and she's like, oh, hey, I lent 1 million credits to like one of my friends like 5 months ago, and she never paid it back. And like, all right, we'll go check it out. So we head over there, and when we knock on the door, we find this haggard woman who explains that she's been working like 15 hours a day, and she can't even afford like her phone bill, and that she's going to pay her friend back, but it's going to be like a month because of like all this crazy nonsense that's going on. And we're like, okay. So we head back to the woman, and we explain the situation. The woman's like, oh, okay, I don't really need the money right now anyway. It's just good to know that she's okay, I guess. And so... and then Moran refuses any kind of payment from the lady for going to check it out because, it's not right or whatever. And so we're like, all right, we'll just try again. And then there's like a series of like other events that apparently we were involved with where we're not able to get like a single credit from anybody for any debt because there's always like some weird personal reason, like sick family members or whatever. And so we just are a constant failure when it comes to debt collecting altogether. Right before Moran gives up completely, this like sickly-looking woman wanders up and like demands assistance and help with something. And Moran's like, no, I'm a failure. I can't do anything. Just go on with your day. And but the lady's like super insistent. She's like, oh, I need this money I lent to a friend because I've been sick and I have to, otherwise I can't keep up treatments or whatever. And she finally convinces Moran. There's like, all right, this is the last thing we're gonna do, and let's just go do it. So we head over to down this like dark alley, past like garbage dumps or something, into like this dilapidated, crazy looking place. And there's like a rusted gate. And so Moran opens it up and walks into this area where this friend like owes this lady a lot of money, I guess. And as she gets there, she's like, hold up, could I cover that lady's eyes? And so we do, and we're like, why? What's going on? And then we see like a corpse that's been rotting like for some time. And we're like, oh my goodness gracious. So that's why the lady wasn't paying the money back. So we contact ACPU and get Polly over there so they can do an investigation. And we find out that the woman killed herself. And that she left a suicide note, being really sad about not being able to help her friend out with her sickness and just some other stuff that was going on. So the woman like forgives her friend, even though, and then she has a good cry, and then Moran has a good cry in the whole situation. And then, but we're still, Peony Association is still out of money, so we're still in a lot of trouble when it comes for that. But then Jin rushes up and finds us. And Jin, if you remember, is kind of Moran's right-hand man. And he's like, hey, look, I took some money from that we had left, and I invested it, and I made like buku bucks, and I made enough money to support the Peony Association for several years. And then we got some to spend, so I'm going to throw like a party for everybody. And then Moran's like, give me that card with the credit card, so that I can, I'm going to get some stuff. And he's like, all right, don't spend too much, though. Crazy lunatic. And so she goes off, and then a few days later, she comes to visit us, and she tells us that she paid for that lady's, like, treatments, her sickness treatments, and also that she brought us some gifts, some just, like, snacks and stuff. And we talk about how Moran is so kind-hearted and caring about other people, and that's how she builds her association, and that's how she keeps people working for her, is because of the loyalty and the way she treats people and stuff. And then she shows us that she's been investing too, that she learned some tricks from Jin, and that she's like super excited. She's like, I'm making so much money in investment. And then she shows us her phone, and it's like, well, you're making a little bit of money, but it's like, we'll see, I guess. But we have a sinking suspicion that she's going to be returning to us sooner than later for more help with her financial troubles, to be completely honest, even though she has quote unquote insider information. And that wraps up her Bond story. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later.